Welcome back to Bird's Eye View. When it comes to the Orioles, this podcast is your official source for a lack of insight and for baseless opinion. Today is March 21st, 2026, and this is episode 423. My name is Scott Magnus.
And I'm Jake English.
And then this week's show, we'll make the final preparations for the 2026 Orioles season.
And we'll also get our, can we call this traditional? We'll get our traditional visit of spring training from Matt Taylor.
Yeah, it's like getting a Christmas tree.
And we'll do all that now. Let's not bury the lead here. Matt Taylor, he's one of the good ones. We talk all the time about one of the true joys of doing this podcast, this silly little podcast of ours, is that we have met so many great people along the way. And Matt is a prime example. Author, one might say, of The Roar from 34. One of the preeminent blogs of the golden age of Orioles blogosphere. Host of the I Was There podcast, of which, Scotty, I believe you may have been a guest.
Yes.
I believe I may have been a guest.
Yes.
I believe it is well worth your time, listener, to tune in to I Was There. And some eagle-eared Bird's Eye View listeners may remember the days in which Matt Taylor joined us every spring training for a quick visit. And he is here joining us from his diaspora in Nashville, where he is the ambassador of Birdland. And now he joins us here on Bird's Eye View. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here. And I'll tell you that from one of those previous spring training visits to this day, I cannot live down in my own mind talking about being intrigued by one Colby Rasmus.
Oof.
What did he make it through? A quarter of the season? Maybe?
Maybe.
And as a little anecdote here, he now lives not far from where I'm living in Tennessee and coaches Little League Baseball. One of my neighbors asked me, his son plays with, I guess, Colby Rasmus's son. And he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy, Colby Rasmus?" And I thought it was a setup. With that in mind, look forward to many good observations coming from this end of the microphone for spring training and the coming season.
We teased a little bit earlier there, the I Was There podcast. Tell us a little bit about the I Was There podcast, because it is not just something that we've been a part of. It's something that we avidly listen to, and we think everyone should.
Well, yeah, so I Was There is pretty basic concept. It's, giving the fan experience, the fan stories. I sometimes call it an oral history of the fan experience in Baltimore. And it's just an interview with people sharing moments that they were at the ballpark for something big that happened, and that kind of opens doors to all sorts of conversations from there. So I end each episode of the podcast saying every fan has a story. What's yours? And I really do think that if you're a fan for any amount of time, that you do have a story, and it's fun to explore those and talk baseball. I've talked obviously with you guys. My dad was a guest, and it's fun getting to know more about people you already know. But then I've also had folks that I haven't spoken to before doing the podcast. I think friend of Bird's Eye View, Sam Dingman, was on. Our first conversation was that podcast episode, and it's like we had known each other forever. So it's fun both getting to know people for the first time, or people that I already know, getting to hear their stories more in depth.
If you had your druthers, just imagining, what is a story you would love to hear someone tell? What is a moment in the history of Birdland that you would love to interview someone who had been there for?
That's a really good question, because they're the big moments, and I've had some already, 21-31 among those, and I think there'll be more. The Delman double, we'll have to talk about that at some point, given how significant that is. But as much as the big moments, I just enjoy some of the small everyday moments, and I think that's one of the beauties with baseball. You've got 162 game season, 81 of those at home, and even in a season that's otherwise unremarkable, you can still have special moments. And so I like those big and small. I guess, maybe 83 World Series might be a fun one at some point. Talk to someone about that experience of the 83 World Series. So maybe I'll put that out there.
I'm going to give you a white whale. And this is one that I've been thinking about lately. And it kind of goes back to your Roar from 34 days. But here's your white whale, courtesy of Scott Magnus. Matt, I need you to find someone that can tell a story about being at the game at Memorial Stadium when Frank Robinson hits the ball out of Memorial Stadium. And then I want you to segue that into whoever's idea was to put the here flag at Memorial Stadium. That's your white whale. That is what I'm demanding of you. Make it happen.
Well, I'll do you one better and say that the most recent episode is Frank Robinson putting the ball out of Memorial Stadium.
There it is.
The flag, though, the interesting part with that, I was talking to Pete Kurtzel. That was his first game, was a 6-year-old being there. And as part of our conversation, one of the things that came up is what happened to the Here flag.
Mhm.
That remains a mystery. And so it's kind of fun to talk to him about that and then do some outside research. I guess at one point, Frank Robinson claimed he had it, but his daughter said, well, that's not true. But that's kind of a fun tidbit. Where is that flag actually now?
My favorite I was there moment is something that no one else cares about. Here's the thing. I love that baseball binds us together. We have all of these amazing moments of cultural significance. But the other thing about baseball that I think is beautiful is that we have all these moments that mean nothing to the rest of us. My favorite baseball moment of all time is when my wife and I first started getting somewhat serious. She was dating someone else and didn't know that we were bound to be married someday, but I knew it at this point. And so I spent about 3 innings of a ball game sitting outside of section 388 upstairs on my cell phone on the concourse, chatting with her as she was on vacation with her at the time boyfriend's family in Ocean City, Maryland, grinning from ear to ear because I was pretty sure I was about to land the deal of a century with this incredible girl, and then got to come back and watch the rest of a baseball game at Camden Yards, the most amazing place on the face of the planet. Undoubtedly, we lost. I don't even know what game I was at, but it was during the Dark Ages, so of course we lost.
So you would say that's the greatest Orioles acquisition of all time?
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure.
But we all have that story. Outside of the flag, outside of 2131, outside of the historical moments, being an Orioles fan, being a baseball fan, being someone who cares about baseball, the moments for which we were there, all of us, has an important and very personal significance. I love this show that you're doing, Matt, because I think that the history of the team is one thing, but the personal connection to that team, I think, makes it. So, dear Bird's Eye View listener, if you're listening to this nonsense, make sure that you listen to I Was There. It is a incredibly well done oral history project of this team that we love. And Matt, who started out with The Roar from 34, which
was a blog. So for those of you that are young that are listening to this situation, you used to go onto a website, type out your feelings, and have to post it to a web page, as opposed to a Substack or something else on that basis.
This was on the World Wide Web.
On the World Wide Web, not even Web 2.0. This is Web 1.0. It might have been, honestly, back in Matt's day, it might have been Web 0.5.
But Matt was successful at doing this before any of the rest of us had even considered what the internet might be. The Roar from 34 was...
I knew what the internet could be in that time period. That's a whole nother matter.
It was not scrambled.
Yeah.
Matt was a very big inspiration for this show. The Roar from 34 had a regular roving blog spot on MassonSports.com. I'm sure, Matt, you rubbed elbows with the likes of Rock Kabako, of Mark Brown, of Zach Wilt, of Pete Kurtzel. You guys were you were successful in the way that the rest of us unwashed masses could barely imagine.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that was fun with getting into blogging, especially in those early days, was that figuring out, what is this? How's it going to work? But then within that, finding community. Because when I was starting, that was really the Dark Ages, right? And so there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm around the team, but then all of a sudden you start identifying other folks that are putting equal amount of time and energy into the team, and you find community there, and then figure out kind of what works and what doesn't in that space. And that's kind of also where this podcast comes from. It's that figuring out podcasting, learning about that, but then also continuing, to build community and sustain community. Like I said before, with folks that I know already, get to know more about them, more of their stories, meet new people along the way. And when you were talking earlier about kind of those personal moments, I remember I was at the ballpark. I was at Camden Yards, the first game they played there, when it was the exhibition before opening day. And it was obviously beautiful, amazing design, totally different from what anyone else was doing, but it just didn't capture me right away. And I felt in some way, I think, guilty at the moment because it was like everyone's like, oh, this amazing ballpark. This is incredible. And I didn't have that same feeling. And what I came to realize much later is that all my memories to that point were at Memorial Stadium. I didn't have any memories at Camden Yards. And I can remember many years later sitting at Camden Yards and just being able to look around the stadium at different sections and be like, oh, that's when I was here with this person. And we did this. Oh, this was that night. This was the night that I brought, my girlfriend who would become my wife for the first time, and remember that, oh, that was a walk-off home run that night. And so all of a sudden, like, that ballpark had a whole lot more meaning for me. And that's what I think really is special. Like the big moments, yeah, we'll get those on the podcast, but also just those everyday moments. And one of the things I thought about before our conversation is, boy, they might turn this around on me and say, well, what would be your I was there? And that would be a hard question. But as I thought about that, I've done big birthdays at the ballpark. Was there again the exhibition before the ballpark opened. But one of the moments that stands out, was in 2002, being there, July 8th, I think it was, and we were supposed to go as a family. My wife and son got sick right when we were leaving the house, so we go with my dad and a couple of my nieces, and this was what turned out to be in the middle of about a 10 or 11 game win streak that season. Early signs that the Orioles might be going somewhere finally. And they rallied, scored 3 in the 9th inning with 2 outs against the Angels. And it was just such a special night to celebrate with all those people I cared about. But it was also a night where, like, I feel like my daughter became a baseball fan. She was 8 at the time. And just, it was floppy hat night. So there was that excitement there. And then it was this comeback that's like, this never happens. And it happened for us tonight. And, we got home that night from the ballpark, and the first thing she asked me was like, can we watch the highlights? And so we went on to the computer and pulled up the highlights and watched that over again. And so it's like, that's a simple moment, right? Like, yeah, it was a walk-off win. It was a comeback that was big, but that's not going to appear on any lists of top moments all time at Camden Yards. But for me personally, I'll always remember that night and think of it, how special it was to share that with my daughter. And again, I think of it kind of as the night she really became a fan.
That works for me. I would listen to that entire episode.
Matt, have you ever thought about, instead of going backwards, to potentially do Back to the Future 2 and go forward in time? And my question to you is, like, if you were to ask your child, what would your moment be if you could kind of project in the future? And was thinking about this before we came on the podcast, and I was thinking about this as it relates to my son. He's been indicating lately, like, he's like, I think I might be a lawyer or be in finance. And I was thinking to myself, like, it's like, okay, well, what might my son's moment be? And I was thinking to myself, my son would probably be in the Truist club level, being called in for a work function that he didn't really want to be there, had a few too many orange crushes in the Truist club section, and managed to see Samuel Basallo's last game with the Baltimore Orioles because the Orioles would not extend him. But Samuel Basallo ended up hitting 4 home runs in his last game as an Oriole, as the Orioles finished their season 60 and 102, limping into another losing season.
Are you asking him what his favorite episode of I Will Be There?
Yes, exactly. I will be there.
We could have some good theme music for I Will Be There. Boy, I'd have to go. I'd have to look.
It's very simple. What the I will be there is. I'll be there.
I wasn't going to.
I'll be there.
But I'm glad I teased.
Just call my sponsorship, and I'll be there.
Well, if we're talking Back to the Future, I mean, I want the book that Biff had. Now that we are in the era of sports gambling, right? That's going to be my retirement. But yeah, I guess
we're in the area of prediction markets.
You don't even need to know what's going to happen at the end of the games. You just need to sway public opinion to invest in Polymarket and bet against the swaying of social media and social opinion.
We've gone in a different direction than I expected with this conversation.
As is the case to Bird's Eye View.
Welcome to Bird's Eye View.
Maybe we should just stop, take a breath, and maybe we should try to get back onto some sanity. Maybe we could go around the bases and establish like some semblance of baseball once again. And Matt, maybe we'll go into first base. Did you catch any of the World Baseball Classic? And you were talking about moments and stories. And man, I don't know anyone that's walking away from the World Baseball Classic saying like, I can't believe that Major League Baseball is still going to do this. Like, what an awesome event from like storytelling and moments and just an atmosphere and vibe. Talk to me about what you took away from it, and maybe specifically, maybe along the line of Gunnar Henderson and how he represented himself in the Orioles during the World Baseball Classic.
Well, starting with Gunnar, I'm excited because I think that it's going to be fuel for the fire for him. I mean, to have such a great showing in a limited appearance. And I was pleased. I was reading an article where they asked him about not playing more. And he acknowledged, like, yeah, right, I'm a competitor. And I like that because we're used to baseball talk and cliches. So I was excited that he represented himself and by extension the Orioles so well. And I'm excited that he might carry that fire into the season. But yeah, a great event. And I think that baseball can be fun, right? And the U.S. might not have always shown that in their own presentation of it. But as a whole, baseball can be fun. And I think also just the international celebration of this sport is worthwhile. My son's not a big sports fan. He will watch some Orioles games with me, but he really loves Japanese culture and loves Shohei. So to be able to have a game on and say, hey, Shohei's up, Shohei just hit a home run, that gets him engaged, and that's fun to see. But I think just a wonderful celebration of the sport. I think the excitement, the enthusiasm around it, and it really was a special kind of life to it overall. And I hope they can carry that forward in the future. And I think even regardless of what your stakes were and who wins, like to have such a dramatic finale and one that clearly meant so much, I think just is kind of it was a good cap to it. After a great tournament, to have that good of a game and that exciting of a finish, I think it gave it kind of a worthwhile cap.
It's funny because I don't know about you, Scotty. We haven't talked about this on the mics yet, but I thought it was a great final game. And I also thought that it was beautiful that it had some geopolitical juice to it. I thought that all that aside, the fact that it was just a great baseball game was phenomenal, right? And you look at a game that's a low-scoring affair, what was 4-2, 3-2, whatever it was, but basically a pitcher's duel throughout with two really talented baseball teams who were laying it all out there for 9 innings. It was, I thought, the game at its finest.
Yeah, I think it was, like Matt said, it was a great tournament and a great final game. And again, I think it just further emphasized, how great of a candidate Mark DeRosa could have been for the Baltimore Orioles if they would have tendered him as the managerial candidate.
Yeah, I mean, we were all calling for that, right?
I did see some folks on social media that admitted, right? Like, that's the guy that I wanted, and I'm glad that I was wrong. And so I credit them for owning up to that and acknowledging their mistake.
I look forward to being able to use that throughout the season of saying, Mark DeRosa says we can't be eliminated tonight, so we're going to be fine.
We're going to be fine.
The final ended on a questionable call. We have enjoyed the ABS system during the run of spring training.
Oh, whoa. This is news to me. You've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it.
Wow, look at that.
Have you not enjoyed it?
I've enjoyed it, but you're not normally one that enjoys new things.
Listen, as a coach of youth sports,
as a lover of 1960s British rock invasion, yes, you are not a lover of new things, okay?
To be able to challenge a call from a home plate umpire. No, I think that watching spring training happen with the ABS system and how smooth it is, how non-disruptive to the game it is, how it adds an extra dimension of competitive advantage as well as just getting things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to see that much discussion around a questionable / bad call to end the WBC. Is it a foregone conclusion? Will we see ABS in the next World Baseball Classic?
I can almost guarantee we'll see ABS.
Yeah, I would think so. And I'll say baseball has gotten this right, which is a bit of a surprise.
Wait. Back up. What was that? Baseball has gotten it right?
I know. It's possible to say that and have that happen. It's incredible.
It's weird.
And I think it's especially unusual in comparison to other sports, right? Because baseball, we hear so much it gets beat up relative to the NFL and other popular sports. But when I think about the NFL, when I think about right now in the midst of March Madness, what they're doing with replay kills the game, right? It doesn't provide the clarity that they're calling for. It interrupts the action and it just becomes exhausting. Whereas in baseball, this is a quick review, especially when we're talking specifically about balls and strikes. It's quick and we know and we can get it right. And I love that. My first time being exposed to it was a minor league game in Nashville. I think it was a couple seasons ago. And it was interesting because I didn't know what this really meant. And to see it in action, it was like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense. And again, it's not disruptive, which I like a lot.
I like that we are on this podcast talking about a multi-billion-dollar enterprise doing the absolute bare minimum of something getting it right. And we're like, high praise to you for doing the absolute bare minimum, but making things right that were actually wrong before. And we're going to offer you kudos rather than just be like, you should be doing that regardless, but we're so proud that you didn't F it up that we're going to give you kudos, is the best way to put it.
Well, look, I mean, the NFL has been
It's like being married almost.
The NFL has been doing replay for a long time now.
Yeah.
And I think that collectively, one of the things that frustrates us is how long it takes and how indisputable something may look on replay, and yet a call will come through and we get frustrated. For a long time, the complaint about baseball has been, look, they won't just stop to try to get things right. And I think that baseball is enacting something that is quick, is unintrusive of the game, and doesn't seem to result in the umpires being cranky about being overruled, in the fact that we may just have something that works quickly and accurately. And I hesitate to say it, but I think it might turn into one of the best replay events in professional sports.
So you're saying that if I go to my wife and say it's going to be quick, it's unobtrusive, and it's not going to make her cranky, she may go along with it?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure I got that.
I will say that we were talking earlier about I Will Be There as a podcast idea. And Scott, building off your thoughts about this billion-dollar enterprise finally getting something right and the high praise we're giving them, I would add I am fully confident they will find a way to mess this up.
Absolutely.
They will have this gem, and they will find a way to mess it up.
Yeah.
Speaking of how things might go poorly in the future, let's talk about the future of baseball and the fact that baseball is about to return to the Olympics as an official Olympic sport in 2028, which will, of course, be in the United States if the United States still exists at that point.
A trial sport. Trial event. It's not a full sport yet. It's a trial event.
So, if baseball returns to the Olympics, I have a couple of questions, and I'm going to depend on the two of you to set me straight on all of these things. The first is, how does that even work? When we talk about Team USA and American baseball, does the same organization that handles USA Baseball for the World Baseball Classic by default handle the USA team for Olympic baseball?
Absolutely. Who else would do it?
So we can expect Mark DeRosa to be an Olympian?
No, I don't think that'll be the case. But again, I also don't think that we're going to see Major League Baseball players playing in the Olympics.
All right. That's a real question. I'm glad you brought that up, because it is no longer the fact that the Olympics is just for quote unquote amateurs. That Dream Team broke that, and NHL players play.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen discussion of there being a break in the middle of the MLB season to allow MLB players to participate in the Olympics. Matt, set us straight. Is this going to happen? Is Olympic baseball going to be all that we hope with the MLB players, or are we looking forward to Atlantic League players?
Well, allow me to continue the theme of baseball screwing things up.
Yeah, exactly.
We just talked about how great the World Baseball Classic was, and I think having Major League players then in the Olympics, right, takes away from that. I was honestly a little disappointed. I saw reading after the WBC, and Bryce Harper quoted as saying, "Hey, I can't wait to go get that gold medal," right? Like that's where he's focused. And I think that just kind of takes away, right? It's just another thing. I think we have this unique time on the calendar with WBC where it's the main thing instead of one of many. And I think that it would dim kind of what's going on with the WBC if you basically try and create the same sort of thing and allow professional players in the Olympics, which I think if you're going to do it, you have to do. Just the example that you use with like Dream Team basketball, hockey, these sort of things. But I'd almost be in favor of let's just keep the WBC and make that this special thing.
I think they can coexist. I don't think there's any reason why the WBC can't exist in
I'll tell you why
the Winter Olympics.
I'll come back to the aspect of why it can't coexist. And it's the same reason why the WBC almost collapsed on itself earlier this year, which is there are a bunch of players that should have been playing in the WBC this year but couldn't do so because of insurance reasons. So there is no way a team, and there is no way that insurance is going to say halfway through the season we are going to lend players to international countries to manage them. And again, if we're thinking about 6+ teams being in the Olympics, they're going to have to play over a 2-week period of time. So you can't do it just during the All-Star break. You'd have to do this for 2 weeks. this screams you're going to pull from the minors and stuff like this. So like I think this is an opportunity potentially to do like a prospect showcase, but I do not think this is going to be an opportunity to unfortunately have Major League Baseball players play, because it's going to be right in the middle of July, and there's no way that players are going to step away and say we're not going to play baseball for 2 weeks in the middle of July when schools are out, attendance is at the peak. Major League Baseball would just lose money hand over fist.
What would you think about a prospects tournament? Kind of like the Arizona Fall League, but with the top prospects in the game. Would that scratch the itch for?
We just saw this
baseball
week with the
tournament?
prospect breakout. I mean, I thought that game was really fun this week with the Orioles playing against the Red Sox, and I thought there was some really high leverage things. I mean, the Tigers and the Pirates were also playing too, and you saw Connor Griffin out there and Max Wagner, and like I think there is a bunch of talent out there that fits in well. I just don't think it makes sense for Major League Baseball players. I think there's a ton of talent out there of prospects and even 20 under talent that potentially could be showcased. If you even go back to the 80s, I mean, it was a situation where McGuire and Clemens and stuff like that were going to become Major League Baseball talent, but they were not seasoned veterans at that given point. So I'm with the prospect / individuals under the age of 21, and really making this a college showcase and a prospect showcase at this time.
All right, let's leave that right where it is and head into second base. And appropriately or inappropriately so, second base is a little bit of light rosterbation. So I don't want to go through the entire 26-man roster because I think that'll be exhaustively covered elsewhere in Birdland. But I do want to hit a couple of points. I heard just today. I was not
today.
I wasn't paying
this evening.
I wasn't paying close enough attention. Scott set me straight.
Drinks were had, and someone walked into the studio and said, "So, Zach Eflin going to the IL?" And I said, "Well, you should go ahead and check a look at the all-new Masson website and see the news that has been broke today."
The new Masson
Yes.
app. Dean Kramer was optioned. What in the actual hell is going on there? Matt Taylor, would you have sent Dean Kramer to the minors?
I certainly wouldn't have predicted it happening. Bold move, but I'll be honest, I don't hate it. We knew that this issue of are they going to go with a 6-man staff? What's going to happen? And it seemed like they were pushing to just say, okay, we can kind of take stuff with Eflin slow, maybe start him on the injured list, and that's our solution. And he was like, the hell you are. And so, I think to have that type of competition, I mean, I think anytime I look at a situation like this, the only thing that you can't account for is what are the egos involved and who's ending up with hurt feelings versus motivation. But I think being in a position where you can take a guy like Kramer and send him down, that's a good competition to have, and to have a guy like Eflin that really forced the issue. I was shocked by it, and it took me a moment to process it. But then with some time to sit with it, I said, I don't hate this.
So with less time, as Scott has pointed out, for me to deal with this and stew in my emotions, I do not love this. In fact, you say you don't hate this. I think I do, because...
Can I drop the next bomb on you that I have not shared yet?
Please do.
So the next bomb that I'm going to drop on you is Dean Kramer was optioned. And since you were just getting back into the world of Orioles baseball, upon Dean Kramer being optioned, the Orioles took it on themselves to go out at Camden Yards and remove banners of him that they were on the light post, off the light post for this upcoming opening week.
Huh.
Do you like this even more?
I do not love this. I do not love this because of all the problems that the Orioles had in 2025, and there were many. Dean Kramer was not among them. Dean
Kramer was a workhorse.
Dean Kramer was not the problem. And I feel like they didn't solve a Dean Kramer level problem. If I were Dean, I would be furious.
I think this is I'm going to call it a Chen option.
Okay.
This is a Chen option, which is just like we saw with Wei and Chen back in 2012. The schedule fosters an opportunity to say, hey, we are doing a great job. We really appreciate it. However, we're going to pull an option on you because you would not get in and have a start in an appropriate amount of time. So we're going to option you so that we have the flexibility and that you can get your work in elsewhere so that we can have you on point by April 9th when we start the season playing back-to-back games and don't have so many off days.
Matt, where are you on the level of Dean rage? You seem to say you don't hate this. Scott is infuriatingly mature about this. I am tearing my clothes and hair about it.
But mean, I think good competition, healthy competition, right? A guy that, while he's been a workhorse, hasn't lived up, to the potential that we've seen, right? And I think that obviously you're going to get Elias speak, and we got that, and he talked about, we had had good conversation, all this sort of thing. But I think there is a way that if you handle it straight up with him and lay it out in an honest fashion, that this can be, you're going to be back, right? And we are going to do a 6-man rotation when we need it. You're going to get, stay stretched out down there so that you're ready. And then basically, like, pitch your ass off while you're up here and keep your spot, right? And I think that kind of competition can be good. And even there's a lot of focus this season, I think, overall on team dynamics, right? We get the polar bear comes in, and it's all about his personality. He's a big personality in camp, but we start hearing about the competition even during batting practice right away in spring training. I think there is a healthy competition that can happen there that motivates guys where they're competing with each other, want to beat each other out at things, but at the same time have a mutual respect where it doesn't kind of tear apart the team. I'm hoping that's the dynamic the team has as a whole. And just shocked that the Orioles made kind of this move bold, right? Bold, not something I would expect.
Bold prediction here. This is not going to be the only starter that is optioned through the remainder of the year. Kyle Bradish still has options. Shane Baz still has options. I guarantee you the Orioles are going to take advantage of this situation with having this amount of starters and say, how can we sneak some option days in order to limit innings, especially for Bradish, who is not going to be able to pitch, 180 plus innings. They're going to have to give him an extended break. So, like, they're going to be like, we want Kyle Bradish to pitch as much as possible, but we're going to have to figure out how to make this work. And Matt, I agree with you. I think in many instances it's going to be a 6-man rotation, but I think in some instances they're going to say, well, we have a few off days and maybe we're coming up against some lesser, teams in the future. Let's go ahead and option Bradish and let him know, like, hey, we're sending you down just to, work on a few things and kind of come back up in 2 weeks and kickstart it in terms of, saving your arm for the rest of the season, because we want you in October and not just through September.
Let's leave the starting rotation. Let's head to the bullpen. Keegan Aiken has a problem both with current events as well as his adductor.
Mm-hmm.
So he may start on the IL.
We have no idea what's up with him. Like, it sounds like he's going to go to the IL, but like, maybe it's on his left side and he doesn't care about his left side and he just worries about the right side and he's just going to go ahead and move forward.
It is very possible. If Keegan Aiken doesn't make the season because he's not healthy, I think it answers a lot of the questions that are out there.
Does it?
Yeah, because Andrew Kittredge, I think, is going to start on the IL.
Yeah, of course he is.
Right. And so right now there are 16 pitchers listed on the Orioles roster.
Okay.
One of which is Keegan Aiken, who, as you noted, may exit stage right.
Okay.
Andrew Kittredge, and then 14 others. And I think if you look at the rest of those cats, the real question as far as the bullpen is concerned is that we really need to make 2 cuts between Geraldo, Garcia, and Kowar.
Yeah.
I wonder who is on your cut.
Well, no, Geraldo just gets optioned. Like, he doesn't need to get cut. He just gets optioned.
I don't mean cut for the program.
But he just gets options, and it's going to be Garcia and Kowar, and you move forward.
Matt, where do you land on that? Is how do you see the bullpen shaking out?
Except for poorly.
I'm with you on all counts, Scotty, that I agree Geraldo gets optioned and the bullpen could go poorly there. If I can ask a question, we look at spring training and try not to get distracted by the numbers, plenty of stories, but we see guys have big springs and it's like, okay, that's just spring training. What does it mean in the case where we're looking at bullpen arms? Like, we've seen some of these guys put up good spring training numbers against a career that speaks otherwise. So when you're looking at bullpen guys in spring training, is it more looking at velocity, break, all this sort of thing, or what else can we take from spring training when it comes to?
I think it comes back to the thing that we were talking about in our last podcast, is which
TJ
we were talking about. Yeah, we were talking to Thomas Nasisko, who was running with TJ Stats, and I think it comes back to like the stuff standpoint. And I'll give an example from a spring training several years back. I remember Felix Bautista coming into spring training and me watching him from a stuff standpoint and being like, this dude has something. Like, I don't know who this guy is, but like, he's got the stuff, he's got the velocity. And I was just like, he needs to be in the pen. Out of those names that we just mentioned, Kowar doesn't do anything for me. Yes, he's got a 98 mile per hour fastball, but it is Tommy Hunter-esque in terms of very, very straight. Geraldo has a nice changeup, which is like, that's kind of cool, but that's about it. And I thought the name that you were going to throw out that I'm still annoyed to this day is Anthony Nunez. Like, Anthony Nunez looked so freaking impressive this spring training. And, him being optioned a few weeks back, I was just like, man, that's disappointing, because like if you already had your mind made up, what was the point? Like, did you even have a bullpen competition going forward? I'll go one further. Like, I think Geraldo gets optioned. I think Coar makes the opening day roster, but I don't think Coar makes it through the Pirates, through the Twins series on the 26th man. I think he immediately gets optioned at some point, or not even optioned, cut at some point during the Twins series for another arm that hit the waiver wire or for an optionable arm that's in the minor leagues.
I don't want to cast aspersions, but I think that Scott had bought some stock in the Anthony Nunez prediction market, and I think that's what we're seeing.
I'll do you one more bet. Guys, who was the last bullpen arm that made the team last year?
I have no idea.
Exactly. Guess what? It doesn't matter, okay? It's as simple as this.
No.
It doesn't matter.
No. It doesn't matter when the team is terrible.
It doesn't matter in any regard for the last bullpen spot. There was a great skeet from Jeff Zimmerman, and he said something along the lines of, it's like, find something as passionate as baseball writers care about the last bullpen spot. And if you can find that passion in your life, you will have a great life. And that's what it all comes down to. Like, this last bullpen spot doesn't mean a lick of beans, because at the end of the day, that last bullpen spot is going to be completely different a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Doesn't matter. What matters is your closer, is your setup guy appropriate? That's what matters. Of like looking at like, is Helsley and Tyler Wells and Kittredge and Rico Garcia, a serviceable high leverage index pitcher going into the 2026 season? That's the question that we should be thinking about, rather than who's the last person to get who doesn't get cut.
But I will say the availability of measures, like when you're talking about stuff, does make it at least a more interesting conversation, because I can think of many years past where the Orioles were trying to get a good bullpen and spend all kind of money on the names, and then you're thinking, well, they spent all this money, they got all these big names, we're going to be great, and then the bullpen tanks. So it's nice to actually have that conversation, be informed by some measures, and I enjoy even just being on social media and seeing folks that really get deep into stuff and things like that, to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing, which gives you more insight than what we're talking about with that argument over who's going to be the last bullpen arm.
We were also talking about this $1 billion enterprise, and Matt, you and I and Jake are old enough to remember back during the Showalter era of setting up strings and telling the pitchers, go ahead and hit these strings in order to basically make sure that your pitch location is okay. And now there is no such thing as strings. You have a multi-million-dollar facility with high-speed cameras and radar and TrackMan on this basis to basically say, all right, we're going to measure spin efficiency and pitch location and horizontal movement and vertical break. And we're going to, in essence, tell you each pitch whether or not it looked appropriate from a shape standpoint, rather than, well, he hit the string, so that means he's showing good command out there. So like, just in, we'll call it 12 to 14 years, that the game has changed.
We've evolved beyond string theory.
We have evolved beyond string theory, yes.
I was going to say, I wish the Orioles could have held out just a little longer in giving their motto instead of fly different. They could have been string theory. They could have been no strings attached. We could have done something for it.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's slide into third base here. And at third base, I want to discuss tradition.
Tradition?
I have a confession to make. We talk every year in this time about the baseball beer.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I don't know if you know the lore of the baseball beer, but here is the baseball beer. At the end of every season, I take whatever beer I'm drinking, whatever 6-pack is left, and I leave one beer. I put it in the back of the fridge and I leave it there all off season rather. And on opening day, I reach to the back of the fridge, I bring out that stale baseball beer. I pop it open. I drink it in the morning before I head down for opening day, and it's the bridge. It's the way to connect last season to this season. And Scott, I have a confession. I don't have a baseball beer this year.
The same thing happened to you last year.
Yeah, but you bailed me out last year.
I did. I actually have a baseball beer for you again, but you're not going to like it.
Well, that's important because last week my wife Sarah was like, "Dude, you don't have a baseball beer."
I have a baseball beer for you, but you're not going to like it.
Is it a stout?
No, it's even worse.
I'm listening.
What do you think it is?
I thought it was a stout.
No, it's even worse than a stout for you.
Okay.
What do you think it is? What's the worst beer that you can imagine drinking?
Is it a pumpkin beer?
It is a pumpkin beer.
Jesus. Scott Magnus. I do not.
It bridges October till now.
But I believe I do have a sour in my fridge for you that I can potentially pass over to you as well.
I have a theory, though.
Yeah.
I have a theory.
Hmm.
If I break this tradition, this baseball beer tradition, what am I losing? What am I losing? What am I risking? I ask you. I have been doing this year in and year out since we were blogging, which, by the way, has been a fair year. And I will say that the Orioles has disappointed us year after year after year, and I have rewarded them with my faith, with my Linus-like faith every year. And so I think if I break that this year,
Okay.
if I fail them in this year, if
Listen,
I break the tradition, they'll break the tradition of disappointing us, and so we will reach the promised land finally because of my own ineptitude.
Absolutely wrong. So again, if we go back to Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye basically breaks tradition multiple times by letting his daughters basically go off and marry who they want to.
I'm familiar with
And
the
at the very end, what happens?
I believe the Russians show up.
The Russians show up, exactly, and they kick them out and basically force them to move out of their homeland. So again, if you want the Russians to show up at your house and move you out of your homeland, I'm perfectly fine with that if that's the choice you're making. Me personally, I'm going to drink my baseball beer from last year so that I can maintain my household income.
I don't think we're looking at this the right way.
Look, I know you're Czech, and I know you're okay with the Russians interfering with your lifestyle, but I'm not, okay?
The Russians won't kick us out. They'll send the Orioles to Nashville, and the only winner there will be Matt.
I'll tell you, I usually, when I'm preparing to be on this show, go ahead and read all the sports information I can, but I should have spent a lot more time on both
musical theater and politics.
Musical and politics, right? Like, I need to read more, broaden my scope a bit.
So the baseball beer is my tradition. Matt,
this is a very wait, don't tell me kind of bird's eye view.
do you have any opening day traditions? Do you have any beginning of the season traditions? I know that's different for you because you don't, wander your way into Baltimore to be there for opening day. But for you in absentia, what does that look like for you?
Trying not to curse in front of my kids. No. So several years ago, I went to start a tradition and I never continued it, so it did not become one. And I actually wish I had. It was the concept when my kids were younger. Maybe a little effort to get them to enjoy opening day as much as I do. And it was opening day gifts. So it would be an Orioles-themed gift, a puzzle, a keychain, whatever, that they could look forward to opening day.
I will tell your wife to get you an opening day gift, Jake. You can go down in the morning, excited, scoot your butt down the stairs, and underneath of the fireplace will be an opening day gift waiting for you.
So you failed to make this a thing.
So I failed to make it a thing, but I think the thing I probably do most often is I put on my vinyl record of Orioles Magic, and that's the way to start my day. And I'll tell you, that actually became embarrassing for me because there was a year where opening day fell on my birthday. And so I came down in the morning and got my Orioles Magic record ready to play, had my hat on, had my jersey hat on, and was so excited that I just kind of did a spontaneous dance that I could only explain as, a white dad dancing. And my wife got a kick out of it. So she took a video of it. And then at that time, we were both on Twitter. So she put it on Twitter and tagged @RoarFrom34. Now, fast forward a couple years, and I teach at Middle Tennessee State University. So I'm in class and talking about social media and the idea that, your professional and personal accounts, they might not overlap well, and trying to explain how important it was to present yourself professionally in that space. So I just offhandedly mentioned, like, oh yeah, well, I've got like this account that I use that's more for MTSU stuff, but I also have one that's more my personal stuff, more sports and this sort of thing. And wouldn't you know, later that day, there I am on social media, and I get tagged by a student who says, found it, and there's the video of me dancing like a fool in my living room to Orioles Magic. So, but I'd say that listening to that record every day and starting my day with that is the one consistent thing. But overall, we just kind of, make it a big day overall that my kids and my wife know it mean a lot to me. And so it's a special day on the calendar for us, even regardless of how we mark the occasion.
Well, we here in the English household, we haven't missed an opening day in, I think, 21 years. But
it's amazing. We
are going to have a different experience this year. Sarah and I, like idiots, told our youngest son, Henry, who is a baseball fiend.
And is not really young anymore.
Yeah, thank you. That he couldn't come to opening day until he was in high school. And so here he is, a freshman in high school, and now we have to take him to opening day. So some of the festivities that we have grown accustomed to, we're going to have to alter because we're going to have a minor in tow. So it'll be an interesting experience this year.
You'll have to show some responsibility.
Well, that's unfortunate,
yeah.
But we'll find a way. So after this, so the interesting thing is that Henry's broke his knee. He has a stress fracture in his knee. After working his way back from a injury where he had two broken bones in his elbow, which was directly after working his way back from back injury, Henry's in an immobilized brace and on crutches. So I don't know what our traversing of the city and the ballpark, frankly, is going to look like on opening day. But we're about to break in some brand new traditions.
He's like the Grayson Rodriguez of Baltimore Orioles fans.
He is something like that.
He gets back and then immediately injures himself.
He gets back, he gets elbow, he gets knee. Okay.
You want to go home plate? Let's wrap this up
into home plate. And instead of tradition, we're going to go to prediction. We're going to go through some preseason predictions here. And Matt, we're going to ask you to weigh in here to possibly provide an actual bit of opinion here. Let's first start with Orioles' record, their final season-ending record. Matt, let me start with you. What do you think the Orioles will end up with this season?
Because it's the beginning of the season and hope springs eternal, and I too am like Charlie Brown, ready to finally kick that football, I'm going to go on what I would consider the high end of expectations. And I think that high end would be 88 to 92. In honor of the Why Not Orioles, I'll take 89 wins.
I like that.
I'm very angry because that is my answer. You took all of the words that I would have said and put them in the right answer and then gave the answer. My prediction is also 89 wins. Scotty Magnus.
I am going with 86 wins.
Woo! 86, which is not why not, but rather why.
We'll get to 86 in just a second.
So that brings us to the next category, which is division finish. Matt, you gave us 89 wins. Where do you think that lands the Orioles in a 1-5 situation in the AL East?
I'll take a third place finish in a very tough AL East.
Okay. I'm going to go with a very tough AL East second place finish with 89 wins. Scotty?
I will go with a very tough AL East fourth place finish.
All right. We are running the gamut. And that leaves us with yes or no, just yes or no. No additional details. Orioles in or out of the playoffs, Matt Taylor?
Yes, in.
I'm going to guess in. Scott Magnus?
In classic bird's eye fashion, I'm going to break the rules and say no. And just like in 1989, they don't get in the last series of the season.
I haven't looked. Who's the last season? Who's the last series with?
I want to say it's the Blue Jays off the top of my head.
Oh, man. If it was with the Brewers, that would be incredible.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to go true 89 and say like it's going to be that again. But let me pull it up just to be on the safe side. It is with the Yankees in the Bronx.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
So Matt says yes. I say yes. You say no.
I say literally they either miss it by one game or lose a tiebreaker in order to not get into the playoffs. Like it is that close.
Will Nate McLouth be in attendance to watch a home run fail to be called?
No.
Scott, you can't participate in this next question because the next question is playoff result. Where do you think the Orioles will end up in the playoffs? Scott, let me start with you. The Orioles not making the playoffs, where do you think they'll end up?
I think the Norfolk Tides win the International League this year.
Yeah, but which one?
No, just the Norfolk Tides.
Matt, what do you think the Orioles do in the playoffs?
I think they break the recent curse of winless playoff appearances, win a wild card, and lose in the division series.
Okay. I have the Orioles advancing to the American League Championship to be
Swept by the Royals.
Swept. I'm not going to say by the Royals. I'm going to say swept in a Royals-like fashion.
Okay, so Tariq Skubal comes in, pitches 3 games in a 4-game series, and kicks the Orioles out.
It's going to hurt my feelings a lot. Let's talk about most valuable Oriole. Matthew.
I'm going to say that Gunnar takes this motivation from the World Baseball Classic snub and channels that into a most valuable Oriole season. I think telling, finding out about the shoulder impingement from last season, and still putting up decent numbers, but not Gunnar numbers. I think he comes back big this year.
I'm going to go with Pete Alonso, the new addition, the big bat. I think that he's everything the Orioles want and more, and I think that the writers that get to pick most valuable Oriole respond to that. I think Alonso is everything in year one. Scotty.
Kyle Bradish is your most valuable Oriole this year.
From your lips to God's ears. All right, next category, biggest disappointment.
Now, hear me out on this one. I'm going to say Colton Cowser. And I'm going to say that in part because I think fan expectations for Colton Cowser after his rookie season kind of went through the roof. And I think also there's a lot of fun around Colton Cowser. So I'm going to put him, at least from a fan perspective, as the biggest disappointment that he doesn't perform quite the way that folks might be thinking in this would otherwise be a bounce back year.
My biggest disappointment is going to go to Adley Rutschman. I think that we all hope that he's back. I think that we've seen him retool his stance here in spring training. I think he looks impressive. I think he fails to come back. He's my candidate for biggest disappointment. Scotty?
I think we've already experienced our biggest disappointment, and that's going to be Jordan Westburg does not play a single game for the Baltimore Orioles this year.
I don't know how yours is the most grounded in reality and still makes me the saddest.
Welcome to Bird's Eye View.
All right, the next category we have is we're going to call it surprise player, and this could be a good surprise. It can be a bad surprise. It can be any kind of surprise you want. Matt, who is your surprise player?
It's Jordan Westburg. He comes back. He has an MVP season. I'm going to say surprise, but I'm going to take this in a slightly different way. My surprise player is going to be Samuel Basallo. And the reason I say that, I think a lot of people are expecting big things, but the surprise is that the Orioles identified international talent, signed it, brought him to Baltimore, extended him, and to have things actually work out in the Orioles organization in that way, I think would be the biggest surprise of all.
Matt, I'm having a hard time seeing you behind those orange-colored glasses. Could you just remove those for a second? My biggest surprise is going to be positive, and that is going to be Taylor Ward. I think that we're going to be so pleased with what Taylor Ward brings to the lineup. We're going to be so pleased with how much of a liability he is not in left field, that for 1 year, he is going to be the complementary player that we all hope that he could be. When we look at what Jonathan Scope was to the 2014 team that made the ALCS before they were promptly swept in 4 games, I think Taylor Ward is going to be that kind of player.
I'm going to go back to my well. My surprise player for good is going to be Kyle Bradish. Kyle Bradish is going to be a top 3 Cy Young vote getter. Will not win the Cy Young. Will be neck and neck with whoever does win the Cy Young this year.
You mean Trevor Rogers?
No.
The only reason they're going to deny him the award is because they optioned him during the season.
That's correct.
Who options the Cy Young win?
That's correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, well, there you have it. Home plate is our predictions. And I think that we have, we've done important work here. Matt Taylor, thank you so much for joining us again here in spring training to lend a little sanity to the madness that is Bird's Eye View. Again, dear listener, we encourage you to check out not only The Roar from 34 for a little humor, homerism,
history, and homerism.
As well as I Was There, a podcast that tells incredible stories about this incredible team. Matt, where can people find you all over the web?
So stick with that home base, roarfrom34.com. I put the show notes from the blog there, link the content there. But also, I Was There is available on all your podcast providers. You can reach me on Blue Sky at roarfrom34 or email at roarfrom34@gmail.com. And any of your listeners that have a good story, I'm listening.
There it is. An open invitation to hop on the mic and tell your story to Matt Taylor.
And that is our show. Remember, you can find this in our entire catalog of indispensable episodes at birdseyeviewbaltimore.com.
Bird's Eye View is available for download wherever it is you get your podcast. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, and many others. Please remember to rate and review the show. We appreciate the feedback. It encourages other people to listen for the first time.
Come and get social with us. You can email us at contact@birdseyeviewbaltimore.com, or you can check us out on social media. We're all over the place where you can find us at Bird's Eye View BAL, including where we are at Orioles Blue Sky. Thank you very much. And with that, Baltimore and beyond, I will bid you all a fond adieu.
Good night, Baltimore. We made it. Baseball is back. And let's go O's.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.